Hey, Alex. I'm guessing maybe you can hear the music now. You were supposed to yesterday, and I realised I think I had the levels all wrong. So please tell me if it's too loud or not loud enough. If it's even actually useful. And nice. I thought it'd be nice to have a little bit of background music. It's the same that's in my headphones as well. Bit too loud. Awesome. I'm just going to turn that down then. See, that maybe looks a bit loud still. Let's try that, and you can tell me. Thank you for your help. So sounds good. Awesome. Thanks. So yes, we're going to continue where we left off yesterday, looking at test data bot and this generation that we're working on for building builders. I'm just going to turn the music down in my own headphones a little bit. Let's do that. Is that right? I definitely need to get better at how to detach the audio that's going into the stream versus into my headphones. But anyway, I think we've got it about right now. And so, yeah, I want to continue on with this generator, probably code for about 45 minutes or so before the football or soccer if you're based in the States, which I'm trying to take my mind off. So, yeah, so where we left this last time is we had these tests and we could generate this code. So for an interface like this, we could generate the corresponding fields. And so what I thought I'd do today is continue adding some fields. So if we look, if I do a new window, pull this over here, look at test data bot on GitHub, there we go. I put this window in the right place, there we go. So we have basic support for one of, we have basic support for sequence as well. And we have one of, we could use boolean. So we'll start with bool today, just support true or false. Hi, is that Turkey? Hey, Tulga, I think that's your name. Sorry, it's quite small on my screen. Hello, thanks for joining. So yeah, true or false, we have this boolean helper. So let's see if we can support that one thus far. So let's go back into here. We'll do the test. So generates bool for boolean types. So we can say, let's say is admin boolean. So here we should expect that we have a field 1, 2, 3, 4 is admin, and that should be a call to the bool function. Thanks for the follow as well. I've also been playing around with these alerts. This is all very new to me, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, anyway, that test is failing, and we see it's failing because we're not generating the boolean code correctly. So if we go into generator, I should probably make that alert a little wider, shouldn't I, so it doesn't squash usernames. If we go into the generator, what we're looking for here is, this is where we were. So there's string keyword, number keyword, and we were looking to have this work for booleans. What I'm wondering is if there's a boolean keyword in syntax kind. Boolean keyword there is as well. So we can probably look to use that. So let's just slot it in here. This function is getting kind of messy with this big if else and lots of checks for various types and things. So I will likely refactor this at some point. But for now, I don't like refactoring before I have a sense of what I think the sort of structure of the code is going to become. And so in this case, I'm happy to let it get a bit messy before we then adjust it later on. So we say if we have a member, which is a ts.syntax kind boolean, and we don't need that brace, we'll say the field value equals bool. Okay, and if we run that test again, I'm hoping that'll succeed, and it does, so that's passing. So that's nice. Now what I want to do is, I was thinking about, I want to go to the test. When it comes to actually beginning to package this up, which is nowhere near ready yet, we want to make sure we're resilient to fields that we can't understand yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say generates a comment if it doesn't know how to generate the field value. Let's go for that. And so what I want to do here is I want to give it some TypeScript type that we're not going to support for a while, and test that when we do that, rather than generate, currently what happens, in fact what I'll show you, is if we have some value that we don't understand how to parse, let's say like this, what will happen is we'll get this outputted. So if I run this, I think it might pass. It does pass, but this is clearly broken JavaScript, so that's not going to do anything. In fact, all it's going to do is error to the user when they then try and run this code. What I'd much rather have is something like maybe a comment that says is admin did not know how to generate, something like that. Or potentially we could do is admin per build, which is a supported kind of function, and we say did not know how to generate. But I don't know if that's more or less useful. Thinking about it, I think I want to go for this fully commented out version, because then if the end user is using TypeScript here, then they will get an error here if we're missing a field that is required. Whereas if we do this, the TypeScript may not error, and so they might not realize that we had issues generating it. So I think for this version, where we don't know how to generate the value, we're going to output a comment like this, and we'll indent it like that. Maybe we'll just go one line, I think. That's fine. Cool, yeah, and obviously that's not passing. So yeah, source generator. So we have all these big ifs. And then for the union type as well, there are loads of cases where we don't. Fixed meet support number literals we do. There are loads of cases in the enum type where we bail because we only currently support string literals or number literals. And so what I'm thinking of here is we need a very generic function that we can call from multiple points that just generates this comment placeholder saying we can't generate it. So maybe what I'm going to do is quickly just define that function. Let's call it up here. Generate can't, let's say cannot generate comment. And we'll take the field, which is the string, that's the name of the field, and it will return the string. So we'll return the field cannot generate build field for, let's say cannot generate field. I don't need to spend a load of time thinking about the exact text. And so here we go. So we're in this if is property signature. Okay, so what I'm thinking actually is this field value is where we set the value that we're going to. This is the value that gets returned in our generated code. And we default it to an empty string. So what we could do is by the time we come out of this if, once we're down here and we push it, we could first check if the value is empty string. And if it is an empty string, then we could put in our message as well. Maybe that's easier than calling this helper function multiple times, is just to say if we get to the end of all our checks and we still don't know what it is, then what we can do is just kind of bail and output this comment. I'm trying to think if there's any issue with reading an empty string of a field value to mean that we couldn't generate it. And I don't think there is, at least not for now. So we'll say if field, if not field value. I know, but it could be undefined. Okay, I'm going to treat the literal null. So I'm going to say field value can be a string or null, and it's going to default to null. And then this. So possible values here. We're going to need to figure out what to do here. So let's leave it to do, which is something like error nicely for union types with complex values, complex subtypes. That's what I want to do there. So here we can say if field value equals null, we will say field code output dot push cannot generate comment for field name. Else, we'll push here, get rid of that. I think that is potentially what we want. Task error, that's fine. Okay, expected and the actual, and you know what I did? I forgot to actually do the comment syntax. Still erroring. Did not know how to generate. I don't like that message. Let's update it to, what did I say? Cannot generate field. Light mode user. Yeah, I'm one of those weird people. I hope that's still makes the stream bearable at times. It's funny. I always used to be a dark mode person, and then I can't remember why. At some point, I just swapped and pleasantly surprised myself in terms of much preferring it. And then I've stuck with ever since. The theme I'm using does actually have a dark mode variant, so maybe I should give that a go at some point. See if that suits me better. So let's change. Did not know how to generate for cannot generate field. And okay, this is interesting. We're adding the trailing comma here, which of course is because when we generate this code down here, we push the line, but we also add the trailing comma. But if we've added a comment because we can't generate it, then we're not going to want that trailing comma there. So I'm going to remove it from there. And what we're going to do here is we'll make sure if we push the line here, we know that's a value, so we can add the comma there. Task success. So all the tests are now passing, so that's good. So I'm kind of interested in this union type to do here. Error nicely for union types with complex subtypes. So I leave a lot of to-dos and fix me's in my code, but then if I'm ever looking at one particular chunk and there's a few in sight, I like to try and get rid of some of them. So we can get rid of some of them, but I'm going to write the test first. So let's put this in here, and we can say refuses to generate one-off calls for complex union types. It may be in the end we do support this. This might be something we want to support, but for now, we're going to say not. So let's say isAdmin can be true, or it can be foo, or it can be some object. A very strange type you would literally never have probably in real life. But at this point I want to say is admin cannot generate field. Okay, let's see what we get if we run this. Okay, that one passes, that's good. I guess it's passing because true is first, so we bail. What happens if we do this? Task success, okay. So I guess because we check, yeah, okay, so we check if it's all literals here, and then we map over them to generate the literal value for it. And this check here is really just to satisfy TypeScript, because we need it to know that this type in here is a literal type node. So that to do can really go, and we can leave a comment here. So because of the all literals check, we know this is a literal type node. But this check is here to satisfy TypeScript. I'm wondering if we should use like an assert never kind of TypeScript helper there. Maybe, but anyway, for now we'll leave that be. Okay, so if we get a literal type node, we are currently dealing with string literals and numeric literals. I guess if we were to look at the type for literal type node, there are probably others. I'm guessing booleans would come under literal type nodes. If I dive into here and we can look at the definition. Okay, so we have null, boolean, literal, and prefix unary expression. I actually don't know what that is. Prefix unary expression. Let's have a look. Okay. In TypeScript? I'm curious as to why TypeScript feels the need to define that type. Can you do... Maybe I'm misunderstanding what this actually represents. It's got an operator, which is a unary operator, which is plus plus or minus minus. Okay, so it is what I think it is. Yeah, okay. I think we don't need to worry about supporting that anytime soon. So I think we can probably just leave that be. But we should deal with booleans. And so we can support that. So let's write a test. So actually, I'm not going to write a new test. I'm just going to expand this one. And we'll check that that works. So right now, I don't think this will work. And it will error. Yeah, so you can see we're not generating the true part here. So we do else if ts.is boolean literal. Okay. Will it be is like true? I thought we just looked and saw that there were boolean literals, and so thus we need to deal with them. So we've got is literal type node. Node is literal type node. Boolean literal, yeah. So I'm wondering if there's an is. I'm surprised there isn't an is boolean type node because we have is where was it? Just keep jumping back and back and back. We have this is literal type node, but there's no equivalent boolean. Is boolean? No. Okay. That's surprising. I'm not entirely clear why that would be, but what I am going to do is go to our AST Explorer, and let's just lob a or true on the end. Okay, so here it's literal is the true keyword. So is there an is keyword or is true keyword or something? I guess, yeah, we don't have, it will be if ts.is is keyword. True? No. Okay, well that's kind of annoying to be honest with you, but I think what we can do is we have a kind on here for the true keyword. So at the very least we can say, so we want union type member dot literal dot kind is equal to ts dot syntax kind dot true keyword, yeah. Or if the union, oh no, let's do that. So if it's the true keyword, we know that we want to return true. What's this moaning about? Oh, that's just formatting. Is it going to wrap it? It's going to wrap it. Else if, and what I'll do is I'll go up to there, paste that, come back down. We're going to change true to false. And else in here we'll just return that, return empty string. But we shouldn't return empty string. We should throw some form of error. It's not we don't know, we don't support. So we don't support the kind of literal that is. So in this case we will return false. And we don't that fix me. So we'll see how we're doing that. Success, great. So this kind of function now, this literal function is getting quite big. So this is probably the point where I'm willing to pull this out. I know a lot of people would probably consider multiple modules here or multiple files, as it were, to tie this up. I tend to not go straight for that. This is quite a small file. it probably looks like more code because I'm kind of just streaming at 1080p. I do have a bigger monitor, but I think for now I'm just quite happy to keep this in one file. So we'll do function, and we'll just call this generate for union type. Generate for union. That sounds about right for me. And what we'll return from this, probably a list of, oh no, just a single field, right? So we'll return a string. So what we're going to do, so we're going to take this is union type node. So we're going to say the node here is a ts.union type. Is it union type or union type node? Is union type node seems to be what we're working with, so we'll go for that. So I'm going to take everything that's inside there, and I'm just going to paste it there. We're going to get some errors because node should be the member. That'll work. Or no, it was member.type the node. Let's go back. Whoops. There's definitely a more efficient way to do this. I'm just going to hold down J. Okay, so if union type node is member.type. So what we're going to do is we're going to call field value equals generate for union member.type. So we need to replace member.type. I'm going to call this node. I think node is a nicer name, so we'll do node. So this needs to become node. Yeah, okay. Okay, and then field value. So we don't need field value here. We can just say return. And what we need to do here is error if they are not all literals. So that Axel, thank you for the follow. If that is the real name, apologies if not. Function lacks, yeah, okay. So if it's not all literals, let's just for now return an empty string, but we're going to need to deal with that. See how many tests I've broken. Yeah, so this will be this. So this needs to be returned null, I think. Just going to tie this up. Rather than if all literals and have the main body, I'm going to do sort of an early ditch guard clause here and say if not all literals, we'll return null. I'm thinking maybe in the future, rather than null, we'll return some like errors dot unsupported union member or something with a bit more information than a null, which might help. But again, don't really want to overthink that stuff too early. So we'll say string on null. So if we don't have all literals, we'll return null, and then we can delete the that one, re-indent that properly. Okay. Task success, great. Okay, so I don't need to do that. Returning null is the equivalent of erroring, really, for us in our current situation. Okay, so we're actually getting somewhere quite nicely here. So what I'm going to do is just revisit test databot on GitHub. Just to see what I may be missing. So we have sequence, we're supporting that. That's a method. Randomly picking, we have one of, we have bool. Per build, this is really useful, and you should use this with test databot quite a lot, because that ensures if you're generating objects, they are unique for each invocation of the builder. So maybe we have something where if we see any value, any field that is some form of object or an array or anything like that, that we should wrap it in a per build. Maybe we could do something there. Let's leave that for now. We have this post build function which can do useful stuff after it. That feels like a level too far for this automated generation step. What I'm picturing here is when you generate the initial builder from your TypeScript input, that is very much the starting point, not the finished builder that you will use. It is fully expected that the users will then go in and change it and edit it over time. So we don't need to generate anything that is perfect here. The only other thing I'm wondering is if we could do something fancy with these traits, but maybe we'll leave that for now. And we also don't know what to do with optional fields. Do we generate them? Do we leave them out and add them as traits? Maybe that would be quite interesting. Let's leave that for now. Let's go for the post-build approach. So, sorry, not post-build, the per build is what I want. So I'll nick this test. And what we'll say is wraps complex or no, object like types, object like fields in a per build. Cool. Okay, so interface is admin. Let's say it is a string array, maybe. And for this, what I'm going to want is admin per build. I have to deal with the indentation here as well. And we'll just return an empty array, I think. We could probably genericize this to if any field value is an array of something, maybe we just generate an empty array as the default starting point. That's probably not a bad way to go. I'm kind of skirting around the question of what happens if this in itself is another interface, like foo interface. Do we go and find the foo interface and figure out the fields on it? Do we generate another builder for that foo interface? Do we leave it in a comment and ask users to define it? Probably to get started with, but over time maybe we could do more complex things. Like if the interface depends on another, we could generate the builder for that as well. But anyway, I'm jumping way ahead of myself here. So yeah, all right, let's get this test running first. So currently, are we just going to generate, is admin cannot generate field. Okay. I just wish this text in this theme were white. I'm not sure why it's very dark here. It makes this hard to see. I may have to look into that at some point. Okay, I'm really pleased that we've added that functionality where if it can't generate a field, it leaves a comment saying that. That's good. Means that if we do ship this out, that at least any, we're not going to generate invalid code, which I think is important. So what we need to do, source generator. What we need to do now is we need to detect if the field type is some form of primitive. Sorry, not primitive, something that's object-like. So we'll go arrays and we'll go objects. In time, we can support maps, sets, weak maps, and anything like that. But for now, we'll probably just stick to ST Explorer. So let's say colors. Whoops. Is a string array. Okay, so we have the element type is a string keyword. Okay, so its main type is an array type. So let's just tackle that first. It's tempting at this point to really genericize the code and say, okay, I've got my test which is arrays, so now I'm going to figure out how to detect objects, arrays, everything. I prefer to just fix the one test we need to fix, and look for arrays. So field name. Okay, so member.type.kind. I think this is where we're kind of figuring this out. So let's say if member.type is array type node, member.type. Sorry, no, do I mean member.type? I do, don't I? Because we're in a property signature. Yeah, so the type is an array type. Okay, so here, let's just literally hardcode it. The field value should equal, I don't even need the quotes, so it's going to be per build. It's going to be that, however, this isn't going to pass because I want it to be on multiple lines. So again, we could spend time doing this, basic indentation, or we could consider something like prettier, some code formatter that we would we generate our code, which would be all valid but potentially not formatted super nicely, and then we would use prettier to format it nicely. The downside of that then is anyone who invokes our generator will need to install prettier, which I don't necessarily want them to do. That seems like quite a big dependency to add just for that. So given that this is fairly simple, I think we can look at kind of doing the indentation here ourselves, especially because multi-line strings exist. So we're going to do that. Then we'll indent by 2. I'll hit enter there. String dedent, yes, yeah, this is really what I would like, because I really dislike when you have these multi-line strings, you have to go all the way over to the left. I don't know what stage, Alex, that proposal is at actually, but yeah, I've wanted that. Stage 2, awesome. So who knows on timelines, but the fact it's made it to 2 is promising. I think once it gets to 3, it's almost certain, famous last words, to make it to 4 and therefore be included. But yeah, I agree. That would be super useful for cases like this. And I'm in Node land here, so I could install something to do it for me. Maybe we will in time. But for now, we'll kind of stick. We'll stick with this. So we expected it to be this, the actual. So we're expecting many more returns. I can't quite remember. Yeah, okay. So we. So for each field, when we push it and generate the final code, we just take the full value for that one field line and we indent it by 2 spaces, or 4 spaces actually, at the beginning. That assumes that the line is over. That the field is over 1 line, not multiple. So what we could do is, we can hack this in. This isn't going to be nice, but I think if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then do 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that what we want? That is what we want, just with that. Whoops, I don't want to view it. I want to run it. No, not quite. Have I just got my test wrong here with the extra trailing comma? Yeah, so I'm missing a trailing comma there. So that works. This is, I don't like this, and the reason I don't like this is because it's not clear why they're indented this amount. It was at least clear when it was like that. It's clear what you're doing. You're pushing it down and you're just indenting it by 2. But now when it's like, was it that had the test passing? Yeah, that's a bit messy because it's not clear like where those spaces are coming from and why it is particularly spaced like that. So what I'm wondering is, currently the value for a given field is represented as a string, but we could represent it as a string or an array of strings. What if I want tabs? Yeah, that's also a very good point. We might want to allow people to generate it with tabs. Maybe this is where we actually just default to a formatter like prettier and have people install that as they run our generator. That could work. Again, it feels a bit heavy to pull that in. I wonder if there's something a bit lighter weight that we could use instead. I mean, there's Rome, I think, just released their formatter. Don't know if it does TypeScript yet. I think it does. But to be honest, I don't see us doing massively complicated formatting. I just need to deal with indents correctly. But you're right, I shouldn't be hard coding spaces. We should probably have some helper. Yeah, to repeat it. I kind of wonder if we want to have some sort of something like that, which can take a line and indent it by a correct amount. Yeah, or we track the level as we go. But I don't see us getting super nested here because we're generating these builders. Each field wouldn't have a builder inside. Do you mean, so if we did that, would indent either be like a literal not /n/t, or something like 2 spaces? Is that kind of what you're thinking, Alex? Yeah. Yeah, okay. I quite kind of like where this is going. So it's either a tab or it's 2 spaces. Some people might use 4 spaces or more. But then is it naive to assume that most projects have ESLint or something that will format their code for them? I think that's probably true. Or put another way, I don't think we can support formatting the code perfectly for every single stylistic choice you can make. I think if we have a flag for tab or spaces, and then maybe in the future we could do spaces size to be 2 or 4, that feels like probably as far as we would want to go. Okay, so I have about 10 or 15 minutes before I need to call it for tonight. So let's write a test and see where we get on. We may pick this test up during the next stream. So let's say something like it can output code using tabs. Let's leave it as this example. This is quite a good example. So we're probably going to have to pass in some options here. Let's say tabs true. That'll do for now. Okay, and then this is going to make this a bit easier, right? Because I think what I can do is I can collapse those into /t. And this will be /t/t. So we go in one more. And then this will be 3 of them. And this will be 2 of them. Whoops. And this will be 1 of them. Nice. Okay, let's firstly update generate to take in config. And we'll have no, let's not make it optional. Let's be explicit. Let's make it all be passed in. Okay. So I'll have that. Okay, so let's run this now. Oh, expected 3. Oh, of course, all these tests are now going to fail because we need to pass in the config. Do I want a default config? I don't think I do. I think it's useful to be explicit about these things. Whoops. Okay, that's just styling. That's fine. Yeah, great. Okay, so expected and actual is way off. Yeah, okay, so it's expecting that it's got a very large tab stop on this output. Is that 8 characters? But that is, at least it means it's clear in the diff. Cool. Okay, so we'll do baby steps here. What I probably should have done is done this addition without adding the failing test, because now the way I'm going to check if this is actually working is to ensure I haven't broken any existing tests. So what I'm actually just going to do is I'm going to skip this test for now, because what I want to do is refactor into an indent helper, just have it use spaces and make sure all these tests remain green, and then we can come back and add the test for tabs and then work through to ensure that our tab support is green. So does tab have a skip? It does have a skip. It's going to moan at me that no test should be skipped. That's fine. But it does mean right now we should be green because we're skipping this one test, which is fine. But now what we can do is we can work on this indent helper without worrying about our tabs issue for now. Okay, so basically wherever we're doing something like this, we want to replace this with something like indent. So it's going to take the string, then it'll take the character. So let's just, I'm going to hard code it to 2 spaces for now, in fact. I could do an enum here, can't I? Const enum indent type. It's equals, isn't it? One, two. So I'm going to want to say that we're going to indent. So this will now lose those spaces because we want them to be in the indent. So we're going to do the fields by indent type dot space. Then the indent level is 1. We need to close brace. Is that kind of what we were thinking? Line amount. Yeah, okay, yeah, so that is okay. So take the string. I mean, there would definitely be a node package that does this, but that feels overkill, at least for now. I tend to not like adding dependencies immediately. I tend to try and solve it a bit myself and then see how we get on. Okay, so what we're going to want to return is indent char dot, is there a repeat? There is a repeat. That number of times with the string. And this is actually one where I think it might be clearer without the interpolation. So we're going to do indent char dot repeat amount plus str. I think that's slightly cleaner. What are our warnings? Config is defined but never used. Yeah, that's fine. We will use it eventually because down here, rather than saying space, we'll obviously have to decide what our indent character is. So we may get loads of failures here. We do. Expected that, and we've added a training comma onto the beginning. Oh, that's because up here I managed to put in a training comma. Great. Okay, so we have that basic working. What we can do now is we can say const indent char equals config.tabs the type.tab or indent type.space. So we'll do that, and down here we can say, so rather than indent type.space here, this will become indent char. Task success, great. So this one is fine, there's no indentation required. So now we're in more deeply, so this one needs to become code parts.push indent field code indent char. We're going to go in twice. Task success. And this one will become code parts.push closing brace indent char, just one level again. Ah, I need to actually call it indent, don't I? Errored. Ah, did I just miss the trading? Yeah, great. Okay, so let's get rid of that, let's get rid of that. And then that is indented as the 0 level, so that's fine. Okay, perfect. So the final place where we need to deal with this is up here. Where is it? Where we do the indenting here. So what I'm wondering here is, I think we need to allow the field we have a couple of ways of doing this. We either allow fields to return a list of strings, and then we can indent them when we do the final generation, or we just use our indent helper here to indent these lines and do it manually ourselves. So for example, what I mean is we can say there's going to be a few different values. So there's going to be per build, which isn't indented. Then there's going to be return that, which needs to be indented one. And then there's going to be the closing that, which also needs to be indented. Whereas if we literally returned this without this bit being indented, then the final generator could see the final sort of thing that takes these field values and outputs them, could see that each line needs to be indented by a specific amount. So maybe we go down that way. So a field value now could be a string or an array of strings if it's multi-line. I think that does make sense. It feels about right. Or not. But we're going to have to turn this one into an indent. Cool. And we don't know what the indent character is. Is this messy doing it like this and having to pass the indent character around? Maybe it is, but I'm going to find out. Okay, so for field code of fields, this we know is string, interestingly, was fields. Oh, because we push here, so we are returning just a string straight up. Okay, so that kind of approach goes a bit out the window for now. So I'm just going to back out of that one. So the issue here, yeah. The issue here is that we. Oh, have I undone too far? I don't think so. I think we're good. Just make sure I haven't broken anything. So the issue here is that really I'm wondering if I'm converting to strings too early in the process as well. Like, this generate filter interface generates a list of strings, and the idea was, when I was thinking about that, was that each string that it returned would be one field, one line. But that's when I was thinking about these fields all being one line. But they're not. It could be the key and then a few lines for the value, and then that would go on. So rather than do this, I'm wondering we could also return some bad name. Like, I'm not very good at coming up with names like this, but name or string, and then value lines will be some string array, something like that. Yeah, or the other option is, rather than generating the code ourselves, we actually use TypeScript has a way. Is it create? Use factory.create object literal expression. Yeah, so there are methods in TypeScript to generate an AST and then pass that out. So rather than us doing this stage, we generate the representation of the code as an AST. I think that would. It feels like maybe long term, if we're going to start doing much more complex generation, that would be the way to do it. But right now, for a sort of V1 or even V0.1, potentially that's overkill. Because if we had some interface like this, then we know that the lines, we can just indent each one as we need to. So the field output, these lines would be indented correctly. or we generate it all on one line and we just let the formatter at the other side deal with it. So for example, where's the per build one? I mean, what if we just returned that? Whatever we do, we can't have this. This is messy. So I think we definitely need some indent helpers here. But I do think that this potentially... I mean, equally, if these took a sort of indent base, which was a number, then we could do something like this would become indent that for the amount of indent base +1. That would kind of work as well. The question, I guess, is also is where do you draw the boundary of you're generating representations of code, and then really, ideally, at the very last minute, you want to actually convert that into real code. And what I'm keen to avoid here is having a lot of code that is it's a real mix of generating the strings that will become the code and then caring about the output. Like, I kind of don't want, but maybe this function does have to deal with formatting the output. I'm not sure, to be honest. How are we doing for time? So what I'm going to do, I think I'm actually almost out of time for tonight. Still at the phases of testing out this streaming thing. I personally really enjoyed it. Thank you to those who have said hello and watched questions and talked about the fact I use light mode. But it's really appreciated. I'm really enjoying doing this. I hope these are enjoyable to watch. Thank you for following along. Thank you, Alex, in particular, for all your help and suggestions. I'm going to hit pause here for two reasons. Firstly, I'm nearly out of time. Secondly, I actually don't know what I want to do with the next stage of this, and it feels like a problem for me where I need to just go away for a bit, come back with fresh eyes another time. So I will just commit this. Expanding builder generation. What did we do today? We did the per build. We did further one of, and we did comments if we can't generate for the given field. I'm not worrying too much about the commit messages here because this is all going to end up being sort of squashed and rebased up. Git push origin generation. And if I put a -u in front of that. Great. So again, thank you all very much for joining. In terms of a schedule moving forwards, if I decide to stream on a regular basis, I will have a schedule and it will be probably once or twice a week consistently, so people know as and when I'm going to be online. Currently it's going to be a bit ad hoc just while I figure it out and while I continue to experiment and see if this is something that people enjoy and that I enjoy doing. So far it seems positive. So the best way to know for now if I'm streaming, it will nearly always be around this time, like UK early evenings, but I may well mix it up. And so if you follow me on social, so I'm Jack_Franklin on Twitter, you'll also then find a link to Mastodon and other places. I will make sure I tweet or Mastodon, they call it toots or post whenever I go online. And if you have any suggestions or feedback, please feel free to drop me a message on any channels that you can find me on. So with that, I will say thank you very much. I hope you have a great rest of your day or evening, and I hope to speak to you all again soon. Thanks for joining me.